Hey, everybody, and welcome to our deep dive.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fascinating one. We're looking at the Law of One.
Mm.
Now, you sent this in. You're curious about it. It's a series of books called The Raw Material. And I got to say, it's pretty out there.
It is a little bit out there.
Yeah. So are we dealing with some legitimate ancient wisdom here? Or is this just some really elaborate fiction?
Well, those are some of the questions we're going to be looking at today as we unpack this. We're going to look at the legitimacy, the morality, and the realness of it all.
Love it. Okay, so The Raw Material claims to be a transcript of conversations with an extraterrestrial being named Ra. Did you get that right?
That's right. An extraterrestrial being named Ra, channeled through a woman named Carla Ruckert
Oh.
back in the 1980s.
All right, so we're talking channeled material. We're talking extraterrestrial beings. This is starting to sound like a pretty wild science fiction movie plot, but you've sent us 5 books worth of this stuff. Clearly something here has piqued your interest. What is it about the raw material that you find so fascinating?
Well, what I find so fascinating is it's not just about, aliens and spaceships and all of that. It really puts forward a complex cosmology and a philosophy about spiritual evolution that touches on some pretty universal themes.
So less about, little green men, more about big existential questions.
Exactly. Questions about the nature of consciousness, the purpose of life, our interconnectedness with the universe. These are themes that have resonated with people across cultures and throughout history.
Right. Okay, so let's get into the specifics here. What exactly is the Law of One? I mean, it's a very bold title. It's suggesting this is kind of the law. What does it say about everything?
Yeah, so the law of one, as described by Ray, boils down to this. All is one.
Okay.
All beings, all things, all energy ultimately originates from a single creator source. And we are all fundamentally connected, different expressions of the same underlying reality.
Does it kind of like we're all one? I mean, is that too simplistic?
It's not too simplistic. I mean, it does capture the essence of the concept,
Yeah.
but the law of one goes deeper, exploring the idea of spiritual evolution and how we progress through these different stages of awareness and understanding. They call these stages densities.
Densities, okay, that's new to me. How do densities work?
So imagine a staircase. Each step represents a different level of awareness and complexity.
Okay.
We as humans on Earth, we're currently in third density,
Okay.
which is a stage focused on developing self-awareness and making choices that shape our spiritual growth.
So there's a hierarchy. We're in third density. There's higher ones. There's lower ones.
Yeah.
I guess where do we fit into the grand scheme of things?
So according to the raw material, there are 7 densities in total,
Wow.
and each
Okay.
with its own set of characteristics and lessons.
Yeah.
And as we progress through these densities, we move closer and closer to unity with the Creator.
That's a pretty wild concept to wrap your head around, this idea that we are ascending through these densities. How do we actually move from one density to the next?
That's where the concept of the harvest comes in. At the end of each cycle, which is said to last about 75,000 years, there's a sort of cosmic evaluation.
Uh-huh.
Souls are assessed based on their choices, their actions, and they progress to the density that aligns with their level of spiritual development.
So we're due for a harvest soon, based on that timeline.
Well, Ra did indicate that Earth is currently in a transition period moving towards 4th density.
Okay, hold on. So you mentioned we're in third density right now. What does it mean to transition to 4th density? What would that actually look and feel like for me, for our listener?
4th density is described as a realm of greater love, understanding, and compassion. So the veil of forgetting which kind of obscures our true nature that begins to lift, and we become more aware of our interconnectedness with everything and everyone around us. Imagine a world where empathy and cooperation are the norm, where conflict and suffering are greatly diminished.
That sounds pretty idyllic, but let's be real. The world right now feels pretty far from that vision. How does all this chaos, all this negativity we see in the world every day, how does that fit into this picture of spiritual evolution?
Well, according to Ra, challenges and suffering, they're actually catalysts for growth.
Okay.
They push us to confront our limitations, to make choices, and learn from our experiences.
So it's like the universe is kind of throwing us these turf balls to help us evolve.
In a way, yes, it's about using our free will to navigate these challenges, learn, grow, and ultimately choose love and compassion over fear and separation.
Okay. All this is starting to make a little more sense. But if we're all ultimately part of this same creator source, why is there so much suffering in the world? Why wouldn't we just, choose love and compassion all the time?
That's where the concept of the veil of forgetting comes into play.
Okay.
So in third density, we're essentially playing this cosmic game with a bit of a handicap. The veil clouds are perception, making it harder to see the big picture, the underlying unity of all things. It creates the illusion of separation, leading to the challenges and opportunities for learning that characterize our current state of being.
So it's like we've been hypnotized into forgetting who we really are and where we come from.
That's a great analogy, and it explains why we often make choices that seem to go against our own best interests, or why we struggle with things like fear, anger, and greed.
Okay, so how do we lift this veil? How do we start remembering?
Rowan emphasizes the importance of seeking knowledge and understanding, of cultivating self awareness, and of practicing compassion in our daily lives.
Okay.
It's about making choices that align with the law of one, choices that promote unity, love, and service to others.
So it's not just about believing in a certain set of ideas, it's about actually living them out in the real world.
Exactly. It's about embodying these principles in our actions, our thoughts, and our interactions with others, and that's where the real challenge lies. Picking up where we left off, I want to go back to one of the more intriguing, maybe perplexing concepts from the Law of One.
Okay.
This whole idea of wanderers.
Oh, yeah. The Wanderer. I'm fascinated by them.
Yeah, so for our listeners who may not be familiar,
Yeah.
this is the idea that there are these beings, these souls from higher densities who've incarnated on Earth
Right.
to help with our evolution.
Yeah, it's pretty out there.
It is pretty out there. I mean, imagine being so advanced, so full of love and wisdom that you choose to come to this planet with
Yeah.
its veil of forgetting
Right.
all the challenges we face and just to help others on their spiritual journey.
It's a pretty selfless act, I guess, but
Yeah.
wouldn't it be easier just to help from, their higher density? Why bother coming down here and going through the hassle of being human?
Well, according to Ra, it's all about service to others.
Okay.
It's about stepping into the mud, so to speak,
Right.
and offering a helping hand to those who are struggling.
So it's like cosmic volunteering.
It is like cosmic volunteering. And these wanderers, they walk among us.
Okay.
They're our friends, they're our family members, they're our colleagues.
Uh-huh.
They might not even be aware of their true origins.
Right.
Because they're veiled by the same forgetfulness that we all experience.
So someone listening right now could be a wanderer.
It's possible. Ra estimated that there are around 65 million wanderers on Earth at this time.
Wow, that's a lot of cosmic helpers. Yeah. Okay, but how does this tie into this whole harvest idea we were talking about earlier?
Well, the harvest is essentially a time of reckoning where souls are assessed for their alignment with either service to others or service to self.
Gus.
And the presence of wanderers with their inherent inclination towards service is seen as a way to kind of tip the scales, so to speak.
To help more souls make the cut, so to speak.
Yeah, to raise the overall vibration of humanity,
Yeah.
to make it easier for others to progress.
So with all these wanderers and this upcoming harvest, what does that mean for Earth's future? I mean, what's in store for us as we supposedly transition to fourth density?
Well, Ross spoke of a period of significant change, both in terms of our planet and our collective consciousness.
Okay.
And they called them Earth changes.
Earth changes.
And that's kind of ominous sounding, I think.
Yeah, Earth changes. What kind of changes are we talking about here?
They didn't get into specifics, but they alluded to natural disasters, social upheaval, and just a general acceleration of energy that would challenge our current paradigms.
So a bit of a cosmic shakeup, but is it going to be all doom and gloom?
Not necessarily. Remember, the purpose of these changes is to kind of wake us up,
Yeah.
to help us break free from that illusion of separation and reconnect with our true nature.
Right.
It's about pushing us towards greater understanding, compassion, and unity.
So it's like a cosmic boot camp for the soul.
It is like a cosmic boot camp for the soul.
I love it.
And just like in any boot camp, it's going to be challenging.
Sure.
There will be times of difficulty and uncertainty, but ultimately it's about pushing us to become stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with our true purpose.
Okay. All right, let's shift gears just a little bit. The Law of One also talks about these energy centers or chakras.
Yes.
How do those fit into all of this?
Yeah. So Ra described chakras as these energy centers that correspond to different aspects of our being: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And they're kind of like these pathways for energy to flow through us.
Yeah, I've heard of chakras before, from things like yoga and meditation. How does this relate to the Law of One, though?
Well, according to Ra, these energy centers can become blocked or distorted by negative thoughts, emotions, actions. And when they're blocked, it can create disharmony in our lives, both physically and emotionally.
Okay, so if I'm feeling stressed or anxious, could that be a sign of a blocked chakra?
It's possible. The law of one suggests that by working to unblock and balance these energy centers, we can enhance our overall well being and accelerate our spiritual growth.
So how do we actually do that? I mean, what are some practical steps?
Well, Ra recommends things like meditation, mindfulness, energy healing techniques to clear these blockages.
Okay.
They also spoke of the importance of seeking knowledge and understanding, cultivating positive thoughts and emotions, and aligning our actions with that principle of service to others.
So it's starting to sound a little bit like a self-help manual. Is this all just about personal growth and improvement?
In a way, yes, but it's not about achieving some kind of superficial sense of well being.
Right.
It's about aligning ourselves with the law of one, with that underlying unity of all things.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that our personal growth is inextricably linked to the growth of everyone and everything around us.
So it's not just about me, me, me. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together and that my actions have an impact on the whole.
Exactly. And that's a key point that the law of one emphasizes over and over again. We're all in this together.
This is a lot to absorb. We've gone from cosmic beings to energy centers and everything in between. I think our listeners are probably thinking at this point, is this real? Should I take this seriously?
And those are valid questions.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into that more in the next part.
Yeah.
Really looking at the legitimacy, the morality, the realness of all this.
All right, we'll try to answer those big questions, and then we'll even make a prediction about the future of the law of one. Will AI pay attention to this? Will it continue to grow? Will its legacy last, stick with us? All right, so we've talked about densities and harvests and wanderers and chakras, and I think it's time to address the big question you sent to us in this deep dive.
Yes.
Should you take this seriously?
Right.
I mean, is this legit? Is it morally sound? Is it real? Or are we dealing with some really interesting, elaborate fiction?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And like with any complex and unconventional material, there's no easy answer.
No. So how do we even begin to approach a question like that?
Hmm. Well, I think we have to look at it from multiple angles. First, the source itself, channeled material by its nature, requires a leap of faith.
Yeah.
We're relying on the claims of individuals who say they're communicating with beings from other realms.
Right, and that's where the skepticism comes in. It's very easy to dismiss this all as fantasy or delusion.
Of course, but I think it's also important to consider the content itself. Does it align with our own ethical and moral compass? Does it promote values that resonate with us on a deeper level?
All right, so let's apply that lens to the law of one. What are some of the key moral principles that it puts forward?
Well, a central message is one of unity, love, and compassion.
Yeah.
It emphasizes the interconnectedness of all beings and the importance of service to others.
Those are pretty solid principles. I don't think anyone would really argue with, the idea of being kind and helpful to others.
Indeed, and it goes beyond just being nice. The law of one suggests that by aligning ourselves with these principles, we're actually contributing to the evolution of consciousness itself.
So it's not just about individual actions. It's about being part of something much bigger.
Exactly. It suggests that our choices have a ripple effect, influencing the energy and consciousness of the entire universe.
That's a pretty powerful idea, but does that make it real? Is there any way to verify these claims?
That's where it gets tricky because the law of one itself acknowledges that ultimate truth is subjective and that each individual has to discern for themselves what resonates as true.
So it's not about blind faith. It's about using our critical thinking skills.
Exactly. And that's where I think the real value of this material lies. It challenges us to question our assumptions, explore different perspectives, and ultimately come to our own conclusions.
Sure, but let's be honest. I mean, there are some pretty out there ideas in here. Densities, harvests,
Yeah.
wanderers. Does any of that actually hold up to, any kind of scrutiny?
Well, there's no scientific proof. There's no concrete evidence to back up these claims. But there are aspects of the law of one that align with certain scientific theories, particularly in fields like quantum physics and consciousness studies.
So there might be some scientific basis for these seemingly far-fetched concepts.
It's possible, and I think that's what makes this material so intriguing. It kind of bridges the gap between science and spirituality,
Yeah.
offering a framework that embraces both the rational and the intuitive.
Fascinating. So to our listener who's wrestling with this question of legitimacy, what would you say?
I would say approach the law of one with an open mind, but a critical eye. Explore its ideas, ponder its questions, and see what resonates with your own inner knowing.
So it's not about blindly accepting or rejecting it. It's about engaging with it thoughtfully.
Exactly.
Okay, well said. Now, I want to shift gears a bit and look towards the future. You mentioned earlier that, the law of one might have some influence on the development of AI. How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think the ethical considerations that are raised by the logging, they're going to become increasingly relevant as AI becomes more and more sophisticated. Imagine AI systems that are designed not just for intelligence, but for compassion, for understanding that interconnectedness of all things.
So AI that's not just smart, but also wise and ethical?
Exactly. It's a hopeful vision. And I think it's a possibility worth exploring, as we create these powerful new technologies. It's crucial that we guide their development in a way that aligns with our highest values. And the Law of One offers a framework for doing just that.
So last question. What's your prediction for the future of the law of one? I mean, will it fade into obscurity or will its legacy continue to grow?
I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see the Law of One becoming a more mainstream topic, influencing conversations about consciousness, spirituality, and even the ethical implications of AI. It may not be a household name, but its principles, I believe, will continue to ripple outwards, inspiring individuals and shaping our collective understanding of the universe.
So it's a slow burn, but a powerful one.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the law of one. I hope you found this exploration as fascinating and thought-provoking as we have been. Remember, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep an open mind until next time. Keep diving deep.